into the other big story that we are tracking today. Now, bird flu has returned to the state of Maharashtra with over 3,000 birds dying suddenly in Velholi village of Thane. The district administration has declared the area an influenza zone and has ordered the culling of all chickens and, in fact, in a 1-kilometer vicinity. As per the officials, most people in the village are dependent on poultry farming, and the sudden death of so many birds has caused panic among residents in the area. Meanwhile, the district collector has assured that there is no need to panic. Let me, in fact, bring in Dr. Om Srivastava, Infectious Diseases Specialist, Reliance Hospital Foundation, who's joining us at this point in time. Thank you so much for joining us here. Your first, thoughts as far as this issue is concerned, bird flu is concerned. If you can take us through what is it that people need to be aware about at this point in time.
So, thank you for having me on your show. This is not a very unexpected kind of a situation. The kind of family that avian influenza, bird flu comes from, this kind of outbreak is to be expected from time to time in various parts of the world. That's the nature of the infection. The culling is something that is again standard practice, which is meant to just stop the transmission of the infective, of the virus, the infected agent, the infective agent, to go from one, fowl, one bird, from one bird to another, and that is meant to stop that. So culling is something that is employed all over the world. I don't think that there is anything to get immediately concerned about. Of course, it's early days as yet, and one stray incident of, even though it is involving 3,000 birds, one stray incident does not make an outbreak to be taken cognizance of in a way that it would mean that this is going to go only bigger and bigger. But it does need to be kept in perspective that this kind of thing can very easily become major, problematic. And so a close eye has to be kept on something like this. If you recollect the global outbreak of H5N1, which was part of the outbreak in far back as 2003, 2004, it started off with an innocuous incident, and then it became something which is a global kind of a structure, whereby there were restrictions at multiple airports in multiple countries. So that is known to happen, that can happen. But culling is something that became a practice, sometime after that, around that time itself, actually. So it would still remain to be seen as to where this is heading from here. But for the time being, I would think that yes, what is being done is adequate, and we should keep a close eye as to where this is going to be developing from here.
Right. Dr. Srivastava, if you can just, for our viewers, throw some light on the kind of symptoms that one should watch out for, the kind of precautions that one should take. I know this is early days yet, but nonetheless, it can't be, it's good to be safe.
So symptoms-wise, it is very difficult to differentiate any one kind of influenza from its subtype. So most times patients will demonstrate a little bit of fever, a little bit of body ache, sore throat, headaches, runny eyes, runny nose, and that will be the prototype of an infection like this. What will happen with the poultry or birds or fowls is that birds will tend to be apparently sick as against what they would be otherwise healthy, and that they would be sick in poultry farms. But human beings, they would have these symptoms. So based on symptoms alone, it is very difficult to make a decision that, look, this is bird flu or influenza or any other kind of variant of the influenzal family. But that is something that should be, especially now that you know that one part of Maharashtra has had these symptoms, it's all the more important to make sure that you are seeking medical help at an earlier time rather than at later time, and not allow symptoms to fester for a longer period of time, because that is going to be the difference between, seeking help in a hospital or outside of a hospital. So that's important to be pointed out.
Dr. Srivastava, what would you, say is going to be the point that we need to watch out for where this becomes more, dangerous, or this could have sort of spreads faster? Because at this point in time, there are steps being taken to prevent the spread. But how effective are such steps? Because in the past also we've seen outbreaks of this kind that rapidly move quickly through the state and in some cases even through the country.
So the key to preventing transmissibility is to actually break the chain. That's why the culling is something that is employed in major ways. You cull more birds than what you think are infected. The important thing also is to ensure that infected people or potentially infected people are kept in isolation so that they are not able to pass on the virus to other people who may be otherwise well, and that in isolation they are not going to be able to being able to transmit the infection. These are the two most important things. Besides these is, like I was saying a little while earlier, is that you need to be seeking help from your doctor. There are things which are used in advanced kind of a situation where patients may be short of breath or maybe having systemic features where they feel generally unwell, but that is a very small percentage of people who will get affected that way. So by and large, it will suffice for you to be aware that there may be something happening to you, which is a sense of lethargy or a sense of generally being unwell, and that you're seeing your doctor, you've gone to a hospital, you've done a blood test. If there are symptoms that are getting worse over the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 days, then you're still going back to hospital more than once. And that treatment is then done inside a hospital rather than in the comfort of your own home. Once you started from there, that should suffice in ensuring that nothing gets missed, and that if you need any further medical care, it is then offered to you inside a hospital.
Yes, absolutely. And, obviously at such times when something like this happens, like we were talking about earlier as well, there seems to be a panic of sorts. People immediately stop eating, eggs and chicken and stop buying them. If you can sort of just, bust some myths for us in terms of this particular disease and how it, it doesn't really, the virus doesn't come from eating fully cooked chicken or eggs or those kind of precautions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If there is chicken that you are consuming, once it comes to 100 degrees where it is cooked at that temperature, it is unlikely to allow any kind of virus to be festering or growing in that kind of a preparation. It's only when it is partially cooked or it is stale meat that it is likely to pass on the virus from one person to another, one plate to another. So if you are able to ensure that the meat that you're consuming is completely well cooked, and that it is consumed at the time when it is cooked or around that time, that should be all that you're required to do. Other than that, eggs or meat or poultry is not something that you need to particularly avoid if it is well cooked. I say it again emphatically that it needs to be well cooked. That does not mean that you will in some Western countries, especially in parts of Europe, where you are going to be having cold cuts of certain kinds of fowl or poultry or bird meat. When it is cold cut, yes, there is a chance that it might be transmitting the virus because that is not cooked. But if it is cooked adequately, I don't see the harm. You could consume both poultry and eggs without putting yourself under any kind of risk.
All right, Dr. Srivastava, thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there. That was, of course, as far as bird flu is concerned and some myths that Dr. Srivastava was debunking for us.